The time he had with his mother close by was almost done, and his chest felt like it was collapsing with that thought. Disregarding what was being said, he released Sori's hand and stepped away from the first row of seats where he'd been standing. He walked with steps that felt heavy and labored toward the rose-gold-colored casket and placed both his palms on top. Dropping his head and closing his eyes, he hoped she could feel him, hoped she knew how much he loved and appreciated her for all the sacrifices she'd made for him and his siblings. She'd been everything to him, and now he wasn't sure what he'd be without her. Hands rubbed his back this time, one from the left side and another from the right. Sori rested her head on his arm, still crying, quietly now. Ridge stood close, and the moment Roark heard his brother sniffle, warm tears ran down Roark's face. "Who cooked this macaroni and cheese with this awful, crumbly mess on top?" Bridget Birdie Donovan was not happy today, or any other day for that matter. Roark tried not to pay too much attention to her whenever she was around. Today he especially didn't feel like dealing with her bristling candor, nonstop complaints, or burning insults. In short, he just didn't feel like Aunt Birdie. "Come over here and get me another plate and leave that mess in the pan. Better yet, take it back into the kitchen. Nobody needs to see that catastrophe." His aunt was talking to Jade, his cousin Link's wife, who was 5 months pregnant and still as beautiful as ever in a knee-length black dress. Roark immediately pushed his chair back and stood. He picked up the plate Aunt Birdie had referred to. "I'll get you another plate." He hadn't been able to hide the crispness in his tone and wasn't really interested in how his aunt felt about it. Aunt Birdie was the only girl and youngest child of Roark's great-grandparents, Rowan and Adeline Donovan. She was 92 years old, had no children, and had never married. She'd also never worked a day in her life. Thanks to her inheritance from her parents and the increasing worth of her shares in Donovan Oil Well, she never had to. She owned a house in her hometown of Beaumont, Texas, but spent most of her time traveling or harassing the staff at the Donovan family-owned Camelot Resort on Sansonique, their private Caribbean island. For the last 2 weeks she'd been in London, staying at the flat Roark had rented for Sori after the fire had destroyed a good portion of his parents' Hyde Park home. To keep Sori from locking their great-aunt in a closet, Ridge had agreed to stay there with them temporarily. Jade touched Roark's arm in silent thanks as he walked past her, and he did everything he could to muster up at least a partial smile in response. "Sit down. You've been on your feet since 8 this morning," he told her. Jade and Link were from Las Vegas, but 2 years ago, Link had moved his wife and twin 12-year-old daughters to Paris, where he'd opened his new casino called the Odyssey. "I'm fine, just trying to make sure this goes as smoothly as possible." Jade lifted a hand and tucked her long, dark hair back behind an ear. "I know this isn't easy." "Shouldn't have had this get-together." Aunt Birdie rolled her eyes as she looked around the room. "People have been dropping by all week, smiling in our faces like they knew Maxine personally. Some of them probably only knew how much money she had after Gabe died." Roark chafed at the mention of his father, who died when he was 17. "It's polite." "It's a nuisance," Aunt Birdie snapped. "And I thought you were getting me another plate." After a brief sigh, Roark didn't even bother to comment, but turned away from Jade and walked toward the kitchen of the hall they'd rented for the repast. 45 minutes ago, he'd left his mother's body at the cemetery, where she'd rest forever. There were 150 people in the main hall, sitting at tables topped with white linen cloths. A buffet was set up with enough food to feed double the amount of people who'd received special invitations to the family repast. Roark had wanted to return home. There he could continue working with the fire investigation officer at the London Fire Brigade on the cause of the fire that had torn through his parents' home, killing his mother as she'd slept. "Excuse me, sir, can I help you?" The starkly spoken question brought his focus back to the president. Roark blinked before shaking his head. "Sorry. Yes, could you fix another plate for my aunt? Without macaroni and cheese, please." The woman, dressed in black pants and a white chef's jacket, smiled and took the plate he'd extended to her. "Certainly. I'll bring it to your table, Mr. Donovan." He was Mr. Donovan. He had been since that rainy Saturday 23 years ago, when he'd stood graveside watching.